All right. Well, we want to jump into This Is Your President segment, and we're going to keep this one kind of short, but, I wanted to just kind of cover a few little clips that we had of the president. Now, these happened a couple of weeks ago, but I can't emphasize it enough how much, Biden's cognitive decline is becoming obvious every time he speaks in public. Now, some of us have seen it now for a couple of years. We've noticed it. And, of course, if you go back and you compare it to the Joe Biden of the late 2000s, say 2008, 2009, I mean, it'll just jump right off the page at you, so to speak. I mean, it'll be very obvious. The videos will be very, very obvious that there's something going on. But, recently he introduced Jennifer Granholm, and I thought it was pretty funny because it's like he self-corrects in the middle of the introduction. And this is what we just wanted to play because we wanted folks to be able to hear some of this. But you got to hear him introducing Jennifer Granholm, who is the former governor of the state of Michigan. And but you got to listen to what he says about it. This is kind of funny. Here's your president.
Former Governor Jennifer Granholm, the Energy Department. I often kid her, and I wasn't kidding early on when I was seeking the nomination. Had she been born in America, she'd be standing here and I'd be sitting there. She was the former governor of the state of Michigan. Michigan, wrong. She was a former state. She was a governor.
Just be vague. When in doubt, be vague.
Just start backing out of the sentence. Your president gets into a sentence. Sometimes he gets a little ahead of himself in a sentence. He was actually right, though. She was former governor of Michigan, but he got a little uncertain. Getting on a little bit of soft ground here. Not exactly sure. Governor of Michigan? No, wrong. Okay, governor? Okay, I think she was governor. Governor. We'll just go with governor then. So you got to love your president, don't you? I mean, at least he's endlessly entertaining. Unfortunately, he's in charge of our country, and it's like the ship is sinking while, the captain is playing with the orchestra. He's playing the trumpet while the rest of the orchestra tries to keep up with him. He also talked a little bit about the First Lady's husband, and I thought that was also kind of funny because, he clearly doesn't understand who the First Lady is. He never has mastered that. In his mind, the First Lady is Kamala Harris. Now, I don't know why that's who he thinks is the First Lady, but that's who he thinks is the First Lady. Just listen right here.
But there's been a little change in the arrangement of who's on the stage because of the First Lady's husband contracting COVID. But look at this room and what you see. Pardon?
Somebody has to tell him. You're the First Lady's husband.
She's fine.
Oh, it's so funny.
Do they have a laugh track running there?
Second lady, the first gentleman.
The first gentleman. So now
How about
that would be if Biden had a boyfriend, had a husband.
Or
that would be the first gentleman.
Or if he was talking about the First Lady's husband having COVID, that would be him who had COVID.
That would be him who had COVID. So he's just all over the place. If he wanted to say that Kamala Harris's husband has COVID, you would say the second gentleman has COVID, right?
How about
That's
just
how
say
you
the
would
vice
say that.
president's husband?
Well, there you go. Or just say the name. I mean, he has all kinds of options, but he can't miss the opportunity to get bogged down in his own web of confusion there. So that's your president, folks. Elections have consequences, right? 81 million people, supposedly, went and voted for this guy. Now he's your president. That's what you wanted, apparently. That's what the media tells you, that's what everybody was clamoring for. It's so funny, too, because now I talk to people, and some of the same people who just couldn't stand Trump. I got to get rid of Trump with his tweets, and he's so mean, and he's so unpresidential, and we need somebody like Joe Biden. All these same people. I just talked to some of these people, and they're going ballistic. Biden is destroying our country with inflation. He's ruining our economy. Et cetera, et cetera. And I just said to him, I said, it's amazing how many people, wanted to get rid of the guy that was there before. Couldn't wait to get rid of him. And now we got this guy. And in 1 year, look what he's done. And guess what? We got 3 more years if he makes it that far. You got 3 more years of this. Are you ready? Are you prepared for what we're getting ourselves into here? I mean, we're pretty deep so far with all this inflation, and we got some stories on that coming right up. Interesting, the way he's mismanaged all of these international crises, from the withdrawal from Afghanistan to the issues with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which he seems to have totally mismanaged in so many ways. And we got some examples we could, like when he said we were essentially going to try to remove Vladimir Putin. I didn't say it exactly in that way, but he said, basically, can't somebody take him out? This man cannot be allowed to lead, whatever it was that he said that was basically in that tone. And then it comes out that, oh, no, you weren't supposed to say that. That wasn't in the speech. He just sort of blurts that out. So it just randomly blurting out new U.S. policy of regime change in Russia. And, hey, is that going to help the situation in Ukraine or hurt it? Is that going to make Vladimir Putin more likely to make a deal or less likely if you're saying, hey, we're going to try to take you out ultimately? That's our ultimate goal, is to remove you from power. Well, if he's as crazy as the corporate media tells us he is, then maybe he's just going to send some nukes our way if that's our goal, right? I mean, why would you behave like that? So we can see this cognitive issues, not just running the laugh track at the White House, not just funny time, but actually affecting real issues, real policy. And so here's a new policy that's just come out. This one's going to hit pretty hard. This one, we haven't yet seen any of the effects of this because just over the weekend, Gazprom, the Russian gas company, the giant gas company that ships all that gas through the pipeline to Europe, that Yamal Europe pipeline, they call it, which sends most of the continent's heating supplies for the winter, that gas pipeline has now been reversed as of Friday of last week. Friday and Saturday, the gas started flowing in the opposite direction, so from Europe back to Russia. So Gazprom's pulling the plug, pulling their gas out of Europe based on the sanctions, based on the things that the Europeans, NATO, the U.S. is doing. They're pulling that gas out of Europe. Now, what are you going to have from that? Because Europe doesn't have a backup plan. We're not prepared in the U.S. to mount up enough container ships with liquefied natural gas containers and have those float across the pond to Europe. That's we were doing that a couple of years ago when we were energy independent under the last president. When we were energy independent, remember that goal? But Biden came in and did away with all that, so we're not even close to being able to meet any of these supply needs, and there is nowhere else for Europe to get this stuff. Building another pipeline coming from Israel or somewhere else is going to take years to bring that online. So what you're going to see is energy prices in Europe soar. Well, guess what? They already are soaring. You're going to see them soar even more. And then what you're going to see is necessarily rationing and blackouts on these energy supplies unless something changes. So unless something changes and Gazprom reverses course, that's what you're going to see in Europe in energy prices. And you're already seeing food prices and other prices in Europe going through the roof, just like we're seeing here in the U.S. And we got a couple of stories about that because a couple of giant retailers in Germany just today, Monday, just reported that they were raising prices between 20 and 50%. That's a huge price rise, 20 to 50%. This is Aldi. There's also the retail chains Edeka and Globus, all announcing that they're about to start raising prices as of today. So don't give you any warning. See, that's the thing about these haircuts that you take, whether it be a bank run and a bank holiday, or whether it be these giant price rises of 50% on things like meat and butter, right? This is the kind of stuff that's going through the roof. The stuff you need to buy. We're not just talking about the chocolate candies and the fun stuff that you don't have to have. We're talking about the stuff you need, the meat and the butter. That stuff's going up 20 to 50% and without warning. So you go to the supermarket. If you didn't go to the supermarket on Friday and you go today, you're going to see a huge different price in Germany, and this is following on a series of price rises that have already happened there. The inflation in Germany is booked right now at about 7.6% annually, and just like in the U.S., the way they calculate those numbers is a little fishy, so it's probably a lot more than that, actually. And we see that in the Netherlands, where inflation in the Netherlands has now spiked to 11.9%. Now, just the energy component of inflation in the Netherlands is up over 100%. So prices have more than doubled in the Netherlands for energy, and you're going to continue to see that increase. And you know what? Since we know that real wages are not increasing at that level, people are effectively getting poorer. Their purchasing power is going down because their wages are not keeping up with the prices of goods. So now you can buy less. So now you're going to have to avoid getting that chocolate candy bar, and maybe you'll be lucky if you get that meat. Maybe now you got to buy beans or something, And in all of this context, we finally have the U.S. corporate media waking up, and we have, some journalists, not many, some journalists asking some tough questions. We heard Jonathan Karl finally admitting that here in the U.S. that this isn't Putin's fault. And I got to play this short little clip from ABC News because Jonathan Karl, of course, he was no fan of Trump, as we remember. But Jonathan Karl and ABC News are finally telling the truth. You got to wonder, is the dam breaking here? Listen to what they had to say about the inflation.
Biden has called it a Putin price hike, but most Americans aren't buying it. And the fact is, gas prices were on the rise before Russia invaded Ukraine.
Oh, okay. So just like we told you last week, now the corporate media is catching up to us. The prices were already going up. We played something from November of 2021 talking about food shortages. We had some stuff from January before the Ukraine war. This Ukraine war is not causing the inflation. It's not going to cause the potential shortages in goods that are available at your supermarket. No, those all relate to problems involving the Federal Reserve and the loose monetary policy and the doubling, essentially, of the money supply that occurred. We created more money in the last 2 years than we'd created in the entire history of the country up to that point. I mean, it's unbelievable how much we spent like a bunch of drunken sailors during COVID. We got some more on this when we come back. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.